بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It gives me great pleasure to be with you today, inshallah, continuing our journey in studying Al-Muqaddimah Al-Aajuroomiyah, the first textbook in studying Arabic grammar. Alhamdulillah, today we are on the 17th session in this series. Alhamdulillah, we are. I remind you that we've noticed that the book Al-Muqaddimah Al-Aajuroomiyah is obviously a book that is written over 1,000 years ago, and it's also written for an audience that is predominantly Arabic speakers, native Arabic speakers. So a lot of the material, the stuff that is mentioned in the book is bearing in mind students who have got certain things given, certain things as accepted and known to the students. So whenever we get to something like this, we will just try to tailor the material for our use for students who are speakers of other languages. I'm going to share my screen with you. I have 100 windows open. I hope that doesn't confuse us. The first thing I would like to share with you today, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, is this beautiful image that we've always referred to, just to navigate our way and to know where we are exactly. I remind you that we are on the right branch of this diagram where it says ism. We realize that any word within a sentence is either ism or fi'l or harf. And we decided that Nahu is going to study all three possible types of words. We also noticed that when it comes to ism, there are two subcategories. One subcategory of mu'rab isms that respond to amil, that show the effect of amil on them. We call them mu'rab isms. So that's the green category here on the right. And underneath this subcategory, there is a list of types of isms, all of which respond to awamil, influences, words that come before them and influence their Arab. The red part is the subcategory that represents isms that are non-responsive, fixed isms, mabni isms. It says mabni, al-asma'u al-mabniya, isms that are in a fixed state, in such that they don't respond, they don't show the mark of the influence, of the amil influence in them before them. So that we're not going to touch this one for now. Now we are studying the mu'rab asma, the category. And we said the first one was what? The first one was al-ism al-mufrad. That's the base. Second one was that al-muthanna, and then what? Jam' al-mudhakkar salim, and then Jam' al-muannath salim, and Jam' al-taksir. We covered 5 Jam' al-taksir. And we are at the point where we're going to study al-ism al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. Al-ism al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. We call them in English Diptotes. Diptotes, that's the English name, but I'd like us to adopt the Arabic names. Use them as a way of expanding your vocabulary as well. All of that will come to your service, inshallah, when it comes to you ready to speak in proper Arabic. Inshallah, every word you gather on the way is going to be helpful to you. Even these titles, al-kalima, al-ismu, al-fi'lu, al-harf, all of them, they will come handy when you've expanded your vocabulary to the right degree, inshallah. So we are studying al-ism al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. Al-ism al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. To facilitate the learning of al-ism al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf, if you remember, last week we covered al-jumla al-ismiyya. Al-jumla al-ismiyya, and we said that the basic 3 template sentences, جاء ورأيت وسلمت على, we've become very familiar with them. And now it is time to expand to learn the jumla ismiyya. It will facilitate for us various examples that will allow us to give good examples for al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. And it was about time. Alhamdulillah, we covered that. And if you remember, we said al-jumla al-ismiyya consists of, actually, let me open the document. This is the document. Yes. Where is, yes. Al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. Let me just do a small revision, just on the part that is relevant here. So remember, we said jumla ismiya consists of a mubtada, which is always an ism that is marfu' in a state of rafa'. And then second to that, there is a khabar, which is also a position of rafa', right? Always marfu'. The typical state of the mubtada is that it is ma'rifa, even although sometimes it may be nakira, but that's not the typical state. The typical state for the khabar, that it's always it is nakira, but not always. Sometimes it could also be ma'rifa to serve a specific extra meaning. That's the typical state for the mubtada to be a single word that is ma'rifa, and for the khabar, the second word, to be a single word that is nakira. Right? Both of them are in a state of rafa. We also mentioned that the amil that causes the rafa' in our example here, al-kitabu mufidun, the amil was what? Al-ibtida', which is a type. We spoke about two types of awamil. Al-awamil, who remembers them? Al-awamil al-ma'nawiyya wal-awamil al-lafdiyya. We should say the lafdiyya first. Al-awamil al-lafdiyya wal-awamil al-ma'nawiyya. The most popular, the most frequently عوامل that you will come across is العوامل اللفظية. They will be visibly there. But there is few cases where you will have عوامل influencing agents that are not actual words. They are conceptual. Like here with al-mubtada, what's causing the rafa' here is the fact that it is the first word in a jumla ismiya. That's not an audible word or an uttered word. ليس لفظيا. It's not an uttered word. Rather, it is a concept. The concept of it being the first word in a sentence, in a jumla ismiya, in a nominal sentence. And then we said al-mubtada itself is the one influencing al-khabar. We're going to go for this one. Remember? So the khabar is also in a state of rafa'. That state of rafa' is created by al-kitab. And I wanted you to always imagine one word creating a position underneath and waiting for one word to sit on it. If that word is a mu'rab word, we will call it marfu', mansub, majroor, or majzoom. If it's a fixed word, we will mention the category it belongs to, and we say mabni ala blah blah blah, fi mahalli, sitting in a position of rafa' or whatever. So imagine this imagery always, one word creating a position like a plate for another word to sit on it. So al-mufidun here is khabar that is sitting in a position of rafa' created by this word, al-kitabu. But since mufidun is also a mu'rab word, when we look at it, we say khabarun marfu'un. We covered that, alhamdulillah, in the previous class. And we said that typically, as well, that's the situation of mubtada and khabar. One single word representing mubtada and one single word representing khabar. Alternative to that, you can have al-mubtada, one single word representing al-mubtada. Always, mubtada is always represented by one single word in the state of rafa'. But then, when it comes to the khabar, it can also be a sentence. And then we will look at the i'rab of that sentence, having done the full i'rab of every word within that sub-sentence. We will then say, and the sentence is sitting in that position of rafa'. Remember? وَالْجُمْلَةُ الْإِسْمِيَّةُ فِي مَحَلِّ رَفْعٍ. Remember that. And also we said that this jumla, this mubtada, or rather this jumla, that is a child sentence inside of a parent sentence, it has to have a condition. Remember what that condition is? What is that condition?
It has to have a dhamir in it that refers to the...
Yeah, there has to be a dhamir that refers out to the al-mubtada in there. Very good. So here, when it comes to this one, we just do the i'rab normally as we normally would, and then at the end of it, we will just say and the sentence والجملة الاسمية في محل رفع خبر للمبتدأ. And all of that we covered in the previous class. Finally, we said that this جملة فعلية in the third possible scenario, this جملة فعلية, sorry, this child sentence rather, this child sentence could also be جملة فعلية. So in the previous example, case number 2, it was جملة اسمية. This case here, it is جملة فعلية. And we also made the point of saying that there is a hidden ضمير to fulfill the condition. طيب, not artificially, but really there's a ضمير there. That's a فعل ماضي, and that's the ضمير which is the فاعل of it. This ضمير happens to refer to الكتابة, which meets our condition. Okay? So this is what we mentioned, and I really would like you to hold on to that. This is a very valuable discussion. And I said to you, we will discuss الجملة الاسمية in depth in a section on its own. But this is necessary for us to be able to give and study a variety of examples in addition to جاء ورأيت وسلمت على. طيب, so today بإذن الله تعالى we will begin our study of الممنوع من الصرف, the sixth category number 6 of معرب words, of معرب isms, isms that respond, that change. So الممنوع من الصرف, this is a short version for الاسم. The full version is الاسم الممنوع من الصرف. الاسم الممنوع من الصرف. So الممنوع من الصرف is really like an adjective to this ism. So that's the subcategory we're talking about, right? So to make it brief, they remove the word الاسم and they call it الممنوع من الصرف. That's the topic of our class today. الممنوع من الصرف. Let me introduce something to you here. Remember the word الممنوع من الصرف, الاسم. Have you noticed that this ism is, I'll leave that for later inshallah. طيب, الممنوع من الصرف, this is the category الممنوع من الصرف. الممنوع means that ism which is denied صرف. That ism which is denied صرف. Denied صرف meaning prevented from having صرف. And we'll see what صرف is. الممنوع من الصرف, that ism which is prohibited from having صرف. تعريفه, what does the word تعريفه mean? The definition of it, yeah? Its definition or the definition of it. Remember, we have a situation of مضاف and مضاف إليه. The literal translation here has to have of. And then after that, you can just change it to whatever. First, for you to have like a literal word for word translation, you say تعريف, definition of it. تعريفه, the definition of it. What's the definition? هو, it is الاسم, the ism, المعرب, mean that which responds, الذي لا يلحقه تنوين, that which is never followed by the tanween. تنوين, remember we spoke about تنوين التمكين. Remember تنوين التمكين? تنوين التمكين, this is the tanween that indicates that this ism is fully functioning and it is as far as it can be from the two other categories. What are the two other categories? حرف and فعل. So we have 3 categories, right? Ism, and we have فعل, and we have حرف. So the ism that is as far as it can be from حرف and from فعل, that is الاسم المتمكن. In fact, they call it الاسم المتمكن الأمكن, the one that is fully functioning, that has no resemblance to حرف and no resemblance to فعل. طيب, no resemblance to حرف and no resemblance to فعل. طيب, so let's see this. طيب, when we speak about حرف is always what? مبني. حرف is always مبني, صح? طيب. And when we speak about فعل has a number of characteristics. طيب, but one of its characteristics it never have كسرة. لا يلحقه كسر. صح؟ So the حرف الحرف one of its characteristics is always مبني. Remember this one? Always مبني. صح؟ والفعل what's one of its characteristics?
لا يجر لا يجر لا يجر
لا يجر. يا صحيح. لا يجر. يلا لا يجر. You can say لا يجر. Can you imagine a فعل that is in a state of jar? Never. صح? Remember I said that the states of إعراب are how many? 4. الرفع والنصب والجزم عفوا والجر والجزم. صح؟ The first 3 are for the فعل. Sorry, the first 3 are for the sorry, the first 2 are shared between them. صح؟ الرفع والنصب are shared between فعل and اسم. الجر is exclusive to اسم. الجزم is exclusive to so الفعل can never be in a state of jar. طيب. So that being in a state of jar is exclusive to اسم. So an اسم that is معرب, an اسم that's معرب meaning opposite of this. صح؟ is opposite of مبني. An اسم that is معرب. And also at the same time an اسم that takes jar. It takes jar that's in the state of jar. يجر or you can say يكسر. Has كسرة at the end of it. Because the basic حركة for jar is كسرة, right? يكسر. Okay. So if you have an اسم that is not مبني, right? مبني that is one of the characteristics of حرف, and you have an اسم that takes كسر, then with these two this اسم will be as far as it can be to both of them, as far as it can be from حرف and from فعل, right? So this اسم that takes both, it takes كسرة and also sorry and the فعل as well. فعل neither of them, both of them الحرف والفعل, neither of them takes تنوين. طيب. So if you have an اسم that takes تنوين, which is تنوين is one of the تنوين is one of the exclusive characteristics of اسم. صح? One of the علامات of اسم is تنوين. Remember this? طيب. So it has this تنوين and it also is معرب. And it's also what? It takes كسر. يقبل الكسر. يقبل. So anything, any اسم that takes these 3, we can call it المتمكن. متمكن غاية التمكين. المتمكن والأمكن, يعني it is a fully functioning اسم. Functioning in the fullest sense, such that it is as far as anything can be from being حرف and as far as anything can be from being فعل. It is clearly an اسم. Why? Because it takes, number 1, takes تنوين. Number 2, it is معرب. It takes some states of إعراب, meaning unlike the حرف. And يقبل الكسرة, يقبل الجر, طيب, meaning it is not like فعل. So because it is like this, they call this one the اسم that is most distinguishable, most functioning اسم. They call this الاسم المتمكن الأمكن. طيب. But then imagine this scenario. If we have an اسم that is معرب, but does not take تنوين and does not take كسرة. معرب. طيب. but does not take tanween and does not take kasra. It's ism, it's still ism, but it's not as distinguishable as the fully functional ism that has these three characteristics. One more time. If we imagine an ism that does not take tanween and does not take kasra, طيب, it is mu'rab. طيب, it is mu'rab, meaning it has rafi', it has nasb, and it has jar, mu'rab. And that's enough to distinguish it from harf, and it's enough to distinguish it from fi'l, right? Because it's mu'rab, rafi' wa nasbun wa jar. It can be instead of jar. طيب. However, it cannot take tanween and it cannot take kasra. So that makes it not fully functioning, not fully distinguishable from al-harf and al-fi'l. طيب. Does that make sense? So the ulama, they have this rule, the ulama of Nahu. They say al-harf is always mabni. Listen to this carefully. الحرف دائما مبني والفعل لا يقبل الجر أو لا يقبل الكسرة. طيب. Therefore, they said, إذا شابه الاسم الحرف بني. If the ism has resemblance to harf, it will become مبني. طيب. And if it resembles الفعل, it will be denied كسرة. طيب. It will be denied kasra and tanween, because tanween and kasra are one of the characteristics that are removed from the fi'l. So, does the fi'l take tanween? No. Does the fi'l take kasra? No. So if they find an ism that has some form of resemblance to the fi'l, they will deny it tanween and they will deny it kasra. Is that making sense? So this sort of isms that has a little bit of resemblance to the fi'l, they will call them mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. Is that making sense? Al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. This idea is very important. If you try to capture this idea. الفعل الاسم المتصرف المتمكن الأمكن, the one ism that is completely functioning in the fullest sense of the word, and it is fully distinguishable from its two other divisions. You know, the other divisions are what? Al-harf wal-fi'l. That ism will be called al-ismu al-mutamakkinu al-amkan, meaning, don't worry about the word, al-mutamakkinu al-amkan, the one that is fully functioning, fully distinguishable from the other two categories. Right? And what are the characteristics that the ism, the fully functioning ism, is different from al-harf? Right? The fact that it is what? It is mu'rab. Right? So it is mu'rab. So when it's mu'rab, meaning it takes rafi', nasb, and jar, then that makes it distinguishable from al-harf. Al-fi'l, right? It does not take jar. Right? And it does not take tanween. ولا تنوين. طيب. So if you have another ism that takes jar and takes tanween as well, طيب, then that ism is clearly distinguishable from al-fi'l. Yeah, because fi'l does not take what? لا يجر ولا يقبل التنوين. طيب. ولا يقبل التنوين. طيب. So الفعل, it doesn't accept tanween and it doesn't accept jar. Right? So if we have an ism that takes tanween and takes jar and also mu'rab, then this ism is fully functioning, fully distinguishable from both of his brothers, al-harf and fi'l. Right? But then when you have a fi'l, when you have an ism that doesn't take tanween but is mu'rab, the only one that has, the only character that it has, it is what? It is mu'rab. طيب. mu'rabun. So it being mu'rab Is that enough for it to distinguish itself from الحرف and الفعل? Don't rush. When an ism is معرب, is the state of being معرب sufficient to distinguish it from الحرف and الفعل? It can be distinguishable from الحرف with the fact that it is not مبني, but it is also distinguishable from فعل, because when it's معرب, what does it take? It takes رفع, ناصب, and jar. And jar is something the fi'l doesn't take, right? So if an ism is mu'rab, it is still distinguishable, even if it just takes what? Mu'rab. Even if it has just mu'rab, it is still distinguishable fully distinguishable from harf and from fi'l. But is it at the further side of the spectrum in terms of how different it is? لا. We can push it to the other side of the spectrum by making sure that it has what? It has tanween on top of the i'rab, tanween, and it accepts kasra. Then in that way, it will be as far as it can ever be from being characterized with the characteristics of harf, or characterized by any of the characteristics of fi'l. Right? Does that make sense? So if we have an ism that is mu'rab, right, but it doesn't take tanween and it doesn't take kasra, right, it is not accepting the علامة التمكين. So this tanween, basically, this tanween التمكين, is the علامة, the tanween, that indicate that this ism is fully functioning, fully distinguishable from harf and from fi'l. Right? And in the fullest sense of this, the state of being distinguishable from harf and fi'l. This is to show you that there's a lesser category, or a lesser category of ism that is still distinguishable from harf and fi'l, but not as distinguishable as al-ism al-mutamakkin. Mutamakkin al-amkan, they call it. Is this idea clear so far? No. I know you came a little bit late. Is that clear to you, Bassam? Ahmed? Yeah. Really clear? Yeah. Sufyan? Okay. Salman? You came a little bit late. Okay. Big lesson for you guys to come on time. You know? And by the way, usually when you study any chapter at all, whether in Nahu or any other book, you need to understand the first 5 minutes of the explanation was going to lay the brickwork, or the groundwork for everything that's going to be built on top of it. If you miss on that, everything else after that will become difficult, right? Substantially difficult. So you need to make sure that you don't move from the first page when you're reading a book, unless you fully understand it, fully understand every word of it. And then you can flip the page to the following ones. If you are attending a class, make sure you attend. You realize that the very first 5 minutes is much more important than the rest of the class. First 5-10 minutes of the class is by far more important. طيب. I will go through this one more time for the benefit of those who came late, but next time I won't do that, because it will be a disadvantage for those who came late, or those who came early. طيب. We say there are 3 categories of words. Remember this diagram? 3 categories of words: ism, fi'l, and harf. طيب. Each one of them have alamat, indicators, that distinguish each one of them. All right? So an ism, remember this was one of the first classes we covered, class 1 or 2. We knew what were the characteristics of ism, like التنوين ودخول ال والجر وحروف الجر. We covered the characteristics of ism, the characteristics of fi'l, and the characteristics of harf. We covered that. All right? Now when it comes to ism, we have al-ism al-mutamakkin, and we have al-ism al-mutamakkin al-amkan. Al-amkan. Al-ism al-mutamakkin means a fully functioning ism that is fully distinguishable from its 2 counterparts, fi'l and harf. Mutamakkin, they call this. Al-ism al-mutamakkin, fully distinguishable. But we have one that is even more distinguishable, having all the possible characteristics with which it can be differentiated from its two counterparts, the fi'l and the harf. Right? So ism we can look at them as being split into two in some way. They are ism is split into two. Ism al-mutamakkin, the ism that is fully functioning in that it can be distinguished from fi'l and harf. And then we have the ism that is al-mutamakkin al-amkan, the one that is fully functioning but to the top degree. It can be recognized or identified or differentiated from the other two counterparts with much ease, with extra attributes. Yeah. One of these attributes that are for al-mutamakkin amkan, that are the top differentiating qualities, is tanween. When you have an ism that has tanween, this means that this ism is fully functioning and is fully distinguishable from the two counterparts. Right? And then we have an ism that is denied tanween. It's still distinguishable because it has i'rab. It can be mu'rab. But then it is not as distinguishable as the one that takes tanween. It's not as distinguishable as the one that takes tanween. So we can look at ism as being three layers. The top layer is al-mutamakkin al-amkan, meaning the one that is fully distinguishable with as many characteristics as possible. It can be distinguished from harf and can be distinguished from fi'l. And then below that, we have that which can be distinguishable, but it doesn't have the full attributes of distinguishing between ism and fi'l and harf. Okay? And then below that, we have that ism which has resemblance to harf. Which has resemblance to harf. And that is the mabni, the ism that is mabni. So al-ism, the one that is mabni, why is it mabni? Why do they make it mabni? Because it has some resemblance to the harf. So they made it into mabni. You understand? So it is ism that has some resemblance to harf, and therefore it was treated as mabni, always fixed. Even though it's an ism, but it shares some characteristics with harf. And that's why we called it mabni, fixed. Just like how the harf is fixed, this category of asma is also mabni. Right? So we have three layers. The one on the very top is fully distinguishable from both, from ism and harf. The one at the very bottom is fixed. It is like al-harf. The one in the middle, it is fully distinguishable, but it has some resemblance to the fi'l. It has some resemblance to the fi'l. And what's that resemblance? Is the fact that it doesn't take tanween and it doesn't take kasra. It doesn't have jar. And this is what we are studying today. This middle rank is al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. So I mentioned to you that the ulama, they have this term, they say إذا شابه الاسم الحرف صار مبنيا. If the ism has resemblance to the harf, we will make it mabni, just like how the harf is mabni. If the ism resembles fi'l, صار ممنوعا من الصرف. It will become denied tanween because of that resemblance it has to the fi'l. Is that making sense so far? طيب. So this is the document we are looking into today. So al-harf will distinguish the harf. It's mabni. So an ism that is mu'rab is clearly distinguishable from harf. Abdul Fattah, is that line clear? Harf is characterized by being always mabni. So when we say our ism is mu'rab, meaning it takes rafa', nasb, and jar, that makes it sufficiently distinguishable from harf, right? Al-fi'l, طيب, it's mu'rab, but it doesn't take jar. Al-fi'l is mu'rab, but it doesn't take jar. ولا يقبل التنوين, and it doesn't take tanween. Right? So now when we have an ism that takes jar and kasr by extension, and also it takes tanween, is it fully distinguishable from fi'l? Yes. So now when we have an ism that is mu'rab, it takes tanween, and they accept kasra. طيب. That makes it fully distinguishable from both from the harf and from the fi'l. Is that clear so far? So now when we have this category that what we study now, an ism that is denied this and also denied this. An ism that cannot take this one and that one and can only take i'rab is still distinguishable from harf and still distinguishable from fi'l, right? But it's not fully distinguishable. Is that making sense? Being mu'rab, is that sufficient to distinguish an ism from harf? Yes, because harf is always mabni. طيب, being mu'rab for an ism, is it sufficient to distinguish the ism from al-fi'l? Yes, because even though al-ism can be mu'rab, when the fi'l is mu'rab, it takes rafa', nasb, and jazm. It doesn't take jar. So if an ism is mu'rab, meaning it takes rafa', nasb, and jar, so that type of i'rab makes it distinguishable from al-fi'l. Yes? Shall I say it one more time? Is it clear? طيب. So what we are dealing with today is an ism that is mu'rab, but doesn't take tanween and doesn't take kasra. And the technical ism for this type of category of asma, al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. Aṣ-Sarf here being the tanween. Another word for tanween is aṣ-Sarf. Al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. Al-mamnūʿ min that ism that is denied tanween. That's why in some ulama, when they define it, they will call al-ism al-mu'rab alladhi la yalhaquhu tanween. Some ulama they say wala kasrun, wala kasrun, wala kasrun. Right? Some ulama they say it doesn't take no tanween and it doesn't take no kasr. Right? Some ulama they say it's sufficient for us to call it alladhi la yalhaquhu tanween, because that in itself is sufficient to identify it. The fact that it doesn't take tanween, so we can limit the ta'rif, the definition, to al-ismu alladhi la yalhaquhu tanween. Right? Please feel comfortable, feel free to ask me and stop me if you're not understanding anything I am saying now. Yeah? طيب. This point is clear, and now you understand what the definition is. Al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf is a type of ism that does not accept tanween and does not accept kasra. Why? What's the reason? Now you answer me if you understood. Why does it not take tanween and doesn't take kasra? In one sentence. Yes, because it has some form of resemblance to the fi'l. And as a result, the Arabs, when they speak, they will treat it like a fi'l. And they see it just like how the fi'l does not take tanween, and like how the fi'l does not take kasr, we will not allow you to have kasr, and we will not allow you to have tanween. طيب? Is that clear? طيب. So now moving on. So we have al-mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. طيب. aṣ-Sarf. What is the meaning of the word sarf? Tanween. It's just another word for saying tanween, because we have also what is called al-mamnūʿ min al-tanween. What is mamnūዕ min al-tanween? What type of ism would you come across that can take tanween, but in certain circumstances it will be denied tanween? Mudaf, and what else? Yes. An ism that can otherwise take tanween, but in certain circumstances it will not be allowed tanween. When it's ma'rifah. Yeah. So we said when it comes to al-ism, al-mamnūዕ min al-tanween. So al-mamnūዕ min al-sarf is that type of ism that is denied both tanween and kasr. Al-mamnūዕ min al-sarf. So we have technical words. They have certain meanings, and that's why we give them definitions. We say al-mamnūዕ min al-sarf is that ism which is denied tanween and kasr. But sometimes one can argue we can have an ism that is denied tanween, which is what? Al-ism that is preceded with al-ma'rifah, like kitab, and then saying al-kitab, right? So this al-kitab, can it take tanween? It cannot take tanween. Is this mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf? لا, because it can take kasra, right? And therefore it is not mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf, meaning it is only mamnūዕ min at-tanween due to circumstances. But otherwise, if the ism was by itself in a form of nakira, it would take tanween. Does that make sense? والاسم النكرة المضاف. So number one, the isms that are denied tanween, they are three, right? In basic level. There's two more, but sufficient for you to know that there are three here, right? الاسم المعرفة, al-ism that has alif lam before it, like kitabun. When you say al-kitab, you cannot add tanween and al at the same word at the same time in the same word, right? الاسم النكرة المضاف, ism that is indefinite, that is annexated to another word, إضافة, that is assigned and attributed to another word. Does that make sense? That ism that is nakira, that should take tanween when it is part of an إضافة, part of مضاف and مضاف إليه, that إضافة denies it what? Tanween. But is it denied tanween due to resemblance to the fi'l? لا, due to the إضافة. So al-ma'rifah is denied tanween, but not due to resemblance to the fi'l. It's only to the addition of alif lam at the beginning of it. Al-mudaf ilayhi, al-mudaf is also denied tanween, right? But it's not denied tanween due to resemblance to the fi'l. Rather, it is denied tanween because of the idafa, right? However, number three, we have al-ism al-mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf fi asli wad'ihi, the ism that is denied sarf, denied tanween by its very essence, due to the way it sounds, the way it is written, the way it's structured, right? The way it's built. We said due to it having some form of resemblance to the ism, to the fi'l, right? So we distinguish between these three: al-ism al-ma'rifah, al-ism al-ma'rifah, the one that's preceded with alif lam, that is denied tanween. You cannot give tanween to it, but not due to resemblance to the fi'l, due to the alif lam, due to the ta'rif. Al-ism al-nakira al-mudaf, al-ism that is indefinite and also attributed to another ism by idafa, by annexation, is also denied tanween, but not due to the resemblance of the fi'l, rather due to this circumstance, the fact it is part of idafa structure, right? The one here, number three, that's the only one that is mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf, mamnūዕ min at-tanween, and mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf. We call it mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf. So we kept this word, this term, al-mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf, exclusive to case number three, right? Do you understand why did they not call it al-mamnūዕ min at-tanween? Right? Because we have other words that are mamnūዕ min at-tanween. So to distinguish it from that, they called al-mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf. Otherwise, sarf is tanween, but it's just a technical word to differentiate it from other possible words. Is that clear? Right. So here I'm just explaining what I just said now. Now listen to this. Watch these 6 examples. First sentence here. Zoom in. So this is 3 sentences in this one line, all of which they have the word kutub. Kutubun. What does kutubun mean? Kutubun, which is here. Kutubun.
Books.
Books, plural of books. Plural of book. Books. Huh? So in the first example here, we say al-kutubu mufidatun. Books are beneficial. Look at this. This is something I have not mentioned before. Look, al-kutubu mufidatun. How many words do we have here? How many words in this sentence? 2. Al-kutubu and then mufidatun. In the translation, listen to this. I'm going to say, books are beneficial. How many words do I need in English? 3. So there's this auxiliary verb that is between mubtada and khabar. Sometimes you can say it's is, sometimes it's are, depending on the mubtada. Here the mubtada is plural. So I said are. Al-kutubu, the books, are. Mufidatu means beneficial. Is that making sense? So this is something, like I said to you, in the case of إضافة, مضاف مضاف إليه, what do we add between them in the translation? Of. طيب. And when we have فعل and فاعل, what is special about that in the translation? You mention the فاعل first and then the فعل second. صح? Like we say جاء محمد. So yeah. لا, جاء محمد, in Arabic we say جاء محمد, we mention the فعل first and then محمد second, the فاعل, the subject comes second. In the translation, in your mind you have to bring the فاعل first. You say محمد came, Muhammad came. So the same thing, what's special in the translation here when it comes to مبتدأ and خبر, you will add between them either an auxiliary verb, they call it, I think, either اسم or either is or are. طيب. الكتب, the books are in between مفيدة, beneficial. The books are beneficial. So even though in Arabic we have 2 words, in English we end up having 3 words. طيب. So الكتب مفيدة here. Look at this word الكتب. Is this, does it have tanween? كتب? No. Why is it denied tanween? Because it has alif lam. Yeah. This word كتب is denied tanween because of the ta'rif. It's called ta'rif. Al-ta'rif bil alif wal lam. And then tanween, they don't coexist in the same word. It's either this or that. Because alif lam indicates definitiveness. And the absence of it indicates the opposite, indefiniteness of a word. Right? So al-kutubu is specified. We know a specific books that we're speaking about. The books, the listener understand which books are we talking about, the books that we bought earlier. And then we say the books are beneficial. Right? But if we're speaking about books in general without specifying, do we say al-kutubu? No, we say unless we say al-kutubu in the sense that books as a category, we can say the books are as a category. Anyway, so the point here is al and tanween, they don't coexist in the same word. So there, since we have al, this word is denied sarf or denied tanween? Denied tanween. That's a technical word. كلمة ممنوعة من التنوين. This is a word that is denied tanween. Now here, look at this kutubu, the same word. Does it have tanween? Even though there's no ta'rif, there's no alif lam. Why is it denied tanween? That's nakira, that's indefinite. Why is it denied tanween? Because of the idafa. So kutub, this means, sorry, هذه means these, هذه, these, and then what do we add between them? These are in the translation. So we say these are, what about them? Kutubu, books, and then we have idafa, mudaf and mudaf ilayhi. What do we add in between? Here, what do we add? Of. Okay. So these are books of a teacher, muallimun, teacher. Does that make sense? So these, and then between them we have the are, kutubu, books. Tanween is denied because of the idafa, because of the annexation. And then we have here, because of the idafa, we have to add the word of. These are books of a teacher. Or we can say, these are teachers' books. Right? Do you see how this is structured now? All right. So the point is here, kutub, even though it's indefinite, it's an indefinite word, but the idafa that is added to muallimun made it unaccepting to tanween. Remember, we use the word when an indefinite word is attributed to another indefinite word. What happens there? Ta'rif or takhsis. So when we have we covered this مضاف and مضاف إليه in one whole lesson. طيب. So we have this word in itself is a nakira word. طيب. Nakira means indefinite, unspecified. If it's by itself, when we do idafa, we will look at the second word. Is it also an indefinite word? Then what this idafa does? It narrows down the scope of the possible things that can come under the word kutubun. If the second word that's mudaf ilayhi is a definite word, then that makes the first one also definite, also specified. So here, هذه كتب معلم. Have we done تعريف or تخصيص? تعريف is when you specify it fully, or تخصيص when you narrow it down. تخصيص. So now هذه كتب, these are books of a teacher, طيب. They're not books of a policeman, they're not books of a nurse or a doctor. We've just narrowed it down. It could be any teacher. But if we said here, for example, المعلم كتب المعلم. That's what this happening. If it is كتب المعلم, now we are speaking about a specific معلم. Therefore, the kutub are specific as well because they are the book of that specific معلم. Therefore, they are specific. Right? So even though this word is nakira, but because of the idafa now, it has earned specificity. It became ma'rifah. Does that make sense? But anyway, the point that is relevant to us here now is that this nakira word, which otherwise is entitled for tanween, had it not been for the idafa, now we find it here denied tanween. However, we don't call it mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. طيب. Here, كتب. هذه كتب. These are books. So كتب. Now, this is the normal structure of a jumla ismiyah. The first one is ma'rifah and the second one is nakira. This is called ismu ishara, pointing words, pointing ism. هذه اسم إشارة. When you point at something, whatever you're pointing at becomes ma'rifah because it's specific. You're pointing at something specific. Right? So ismu ishara is specific. And it's one of the mabni asma. طيب. هذه وكتب اسم النكرة. Is it مضاف إليه in this sentence? Is it مضاف إليه? Does it have معرفة? Does it have ألف التعريف? لا. So therefore, it has tanween. So we can tell from this one here that this word here, is denied tanween not because of its essence, not because of the way it is, because of its structure, simply because it's denied tanween because of circumstantial reason, which is here the idafa. Here as well, it's denied tanween not because of its essence, but rather because it has a special circumstance here, which is the fact that it has alif lam. But if it was void from these two, as in the example here, you can see it has earned its tanween. No problem. Does that make sense? Now let's see this word here, al-masajid. As you will see inshallah shortly, masajid is one word that is denied tanween, mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. Not just mamnūዕ min al-tanween, mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf. So here, al-masajidu kabiratun. What's the meaning of the word al-masajidu? The masjids. You know, either as a category or the masjid that we visited when we went to Morocco, for example. The specific masajid that we went, we say, oh, these masajid, those masajid that you and I, we know what we're talking about. That's why it's ma'rifah. Right? Either we're speaking about the specific masajid that we visited, or in general, as a category, this structure that's called masajid, we call them al-masajid. You can see here, this is denied. So al-masajidu means the mosques. Kabiratun, what does it mean? Big. Right? The mosques, and then what do we add in between the mubtada and khabar here? Are, because we're dealing with plurals. Masjid, al-masjid is a singular, but since this word is plural, al-masajidu, we add between them here the word are in the translation. So mosques are big. Kabiratun means big. Right? And you can see this word here is denied tanween. Why is it denied tanween? Here is because of the alif lam. طيب. Look at this. هذه مساجد المدينة. These. طيب. And that's the مبتدا صح? What's in front of it is the خبر. Huh? Between them we have are. These are مساجد المدينة, mosques of. We add of between them because we have إضافة. مضاف إليه. One word, one ism that is indefinite, that is attributed to another word. Huh? This second word could be, we said, what are the possibilities, what are the options for this word? It can be definite, like the case in here, or it can be indefinite, right? So that's a structure of إضافة. Therefore, in the translation between them, what do we add between them? Of. So these are, we said mosques of the city. Mosques of the city. But because Al-Madinah here, the word Al-Madinah is ma'rifah. Right? Therefore, masajidu also becomes ma'rifah. Huh? And therefore, in the translation, we will say, these are the mosques of the city. Is that making sense? Right. So even though we don't have alif lam here, we don't have the alif lam, which is the tool of specificity or ta'rif, but this alif lam came from where? Came from the second word. So the fact that the second word is ma'rifah, specified or specific, it gave specificity to this word. So in the translation, what do we say? These. هذه means these. And in front of it, we have the khabar, and therefore we separate by saying are masajidu, mosques, but then we say the mosques in the translation. We say these are the mosques of the city. Okay? This translation, is it making sense? If not, please don't feel shy and ask. Anyone confused? Huh? Very good. So هذه مساجد. One last thing I can say about the word هذه. The word هذه here is for the masculine or for the feminine? Feminine. What's the masculine version of it? هذا. طيب. Even though we're speaking about مساجد, طيب, which is mosques, and it's not feminine, not masculine either. But هذه here is for the group. Whenever you speak about a group of things, the group is feminine. The fact that it is group, al-majmu'a, right? That makes it feminine. So you refer to it with the feminine. Like the same thing here, kutubun, books. So we didn't say هذا, we say هذه kutubun. Why هذه? Right? Even though kutub in some sense is masculine, right? And I'll tell you that later, inshallah. But we still use the word هذه. هذه because of what? Because the fact that we're referring to a group of things. The individual things may be not feminine, but the group is feminine. Feminine in an abstract way. Right? So هذه مساجد المدينة. These, and between them are the mosques, and then here of the city. Super clear? Right. Now moving on to the third sentence here. هذه, these are مساجد. Can we say هذه مساجد? We can't say هذه مساجد. Why is it that we could say هذه كتب with tanween for the top example? هذه كتب. Whereas here we couldn't say هذه مساجد. We said هذه مساجد. هذه مساجد. Huh? The fact that this is denied tanween, even though it doesn't have al-ta'rif and it doesn't have idafa, that tells us that masajidu is what? Is mamnūʿ min aṣ-Sarf. Is that making sense? And on this note, let me tell you something. We will learn a lot of specifics when it comes to mamnūዕ min aṣ-Sarf. There will be like 11 or 12 cases. But at this point, you are at the point where you're not going to speak yet. Remember, you're going through two phases. One phase is to focus on reading what is, understanding what is written. And then the second phase, which is almost the same phase, understanding what is said. Number 3, the phase where you are going to begin formulating sentences. طيب. When you begin formulating sentences is either orally or in written form, then you will need to remember all the rules. طيب. But in these earlier stages, you don't have to remember them really, because you can see and you can use the process of elimination. Okay, for example, you could use this. You could look at this sentence here. You say, why is this? Why is there no dhamma here? Why is it masajid? And you can say, is there idafa there? You know, and you say there's no idafa. Is there al-ta'rif? And then you say that there's no al-ta'rif. What does that tell you? That tells you that this word must be mamnūʿ min as-sarf. See, without the need to go in the further detailed conditions as to what are the 11, 12 characteristics of al-mamnūʿ min as-sarf, you can just guess it, that this is mamnūʿ min as-sarf. Why? Because this word is not preceded by al-ta'rif, and it's not in a structure of idafa, mudaf and mudaf ilayhi, yet it's denied what? Is denied tanween. That tells me automatically that this word is mamnūʿ min as-sarf. طيب. Okay, we'll stop here inshallah, and then we continue after the salat. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.